So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a daily reward system which allows your players to receive a reward every 24 hours, which they can claim. They'll get a random reward and then it will make them want to come back the next time so that they can get another reward. So let's go ahead and get straight into the video. Now, a daily reward system isn't too hard to make. Most of it will just be actually coding the amount of time since the last visit, and then we're going to use this nice GUI, and then there'll be a nice little animation effect when the player claims their reward. To save some time, I'm going to put the link to the model of this GUI in the description. So if you want to take it, then you can go to the link in the description, take the model, and then go in the toolbox, go to My Models, and you'll be able to insert the GUI from there into the start GUI. But I'm not going to give the code. If you want to get the code, you can become a channel member by clicking the join button for the source code. But if you want to learn more about scripting, I recommend that you watch the whole of the video and copy from the video as we go along so that you learn how everything works. Alright, so let's go ahead and go into a new place then. Alright, so to begin with, I'm going to go ahead and take my GUI. As I said, you can go get this from the description and insert it into the starter GUI. And I'm just going to remove the local script here because you won't have that. But we have a daily reward GUI, and we've got a main frame here. Now it's an image label because I used the Roundify plugin to make it nice and round. I've got a text button, which is a claim button as well. That's been roundified. I've got a come back text label, and that will say how long it is until your next reward. And I've also got a title text label, and that just says daily reward. So pretty self-explanatory. We've also got the reward notice. That is when you click the claim button, you get a nice little animation and it pops up saying how much cash you got. So we're going to script that. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just go ahead and click on the daily reward GUI and set enable to false. And then we're going to begin scripting the daily login system. So how this works is we're going to, when the player first joins and they get the daily reward GUI pop up, we're going to get them to press the claim button, and then when they press that claim button, we're going to save the current time, and then the next time they rejoin, we'll compare the current time to the time when they last claimed a reward and see whether that time has exceeded 24 hours or however long you want it to be between rewards. And so once that time limit has been exceeded, then we'll give them another reward, else we'll just wait until they have not had one for over 24 hours. So it basically lets people, get a reward for coming back, playing your game, and so people will want to come back and play again. So to begin, we're going to click on Server Script Service, and I'm going to insert a script, and I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. And inside of this script, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get the data store service. So this is what we're going to use to save our values, our times, etc., ready for the next time that they join. So we can just say local. Let me get my other keyboard so that it's nice and quiet. So local data store equals game, and then we're going to get the data store service. So we can say get service data store service, and then we can say colon get data store, and then we need to give this data store a name. So I'm just going to call it daily rewards. So this data store is going to be where we store all of our data, all our values relating to the daily reward system for this game only. Now, if we were to change the name of this data store, it would wipe all of the current data that is stored in it, but obviously we don't have any data yet, so we're all good to go. We're now going to define some variables, so the hour wait in between your rewards. So if you want this to be 24 hours, then set it 24. So local hour wait equals 24. And then we're also going to do a table called possible rewards. We'll get into scripting this later on, but this is just going to give the player a bit of luck, a bit of chance. So they might get, they might have, there might be 500 cash that they could get, or they might just get 5. So it just, adds a bit of luck in there, because they might get there's just a bit of a chance, luck sort of thing, so they can get a different kind of prize each time. So we can say possible rewards equals, and then I'm just going to define a table like that. So next thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to create an event. An event is something that will trigger code when a certain when something happens. So in this case, we want to fire some code. We want to actually get the time since the last player joined when they join the game again. So we can say game.players.player added :connect function. So this is just connecting the event listener, which is waiting for a new player to join the game, to this function. And this function will run, obviously, when a new player joins the game. We're going to pass an argument here for that specific player. Obviously, we don't know the name of anyone who's going to join the game, so we just say player, and that argument is going to be the player that will join the game. Okay, so we just reference them as player right now. So anything we do to player will be done to any player that joins the game. So inside of this player added event, then what we're going to do is we're going to create some leader stats for them. Obviously, there's going to be some kind of reward that they get, so we're going to need to give them some cash to begin with, so like a leaderboard. So we can say local leader stats equals instance.new folder. This folder is going to contain their cash, that value, and anything else that you want to appear on a leaderboard in the top right. We're then going to say leader stats.name equals leader stats. And if you want your leaderboard to appear in the top right, you have to call it leader stats, lowercase, just like this, as I have spelt it, else you're not going to see a leaderboard appear. And then we can say leader stats.parent equals player. So now that we've done that, we can create our cache and then put that into the leader stats, so it shows up on the leaderboard. So I'm going to call my currency coins, so you can say local coins equals instance.new int value, and then we can say coins.name equals coins, and then coins.parent equals leader stats. Now, I'm not going to do any saving of coins in this video. I have done a video on how to save currency though in the past, so I'll leave a little card in the top right if you want to go and check that out. But with the knowledge that you're getting today from data stores, you should be able to learn how to save the coins yourself anyway, because it's pretty simple, so you should be able to do that. So now that we have created our coins, leader stats, we now want to get the current time, so the time at which they joined, so that later on we can compare this time to the last saved time when they last claimed their reward. Now, a good way to do this is to use os.time. So we can say local time now equals os.time. I'm saving this as a variable. Os time is a number of seconds since January 1st, 1970, I believe. It was something called the epoch. os.time is going to return the amount of seconds since that time, okay, at midnight on January the 1st. So what we can do is we can say os.time here when they join the game, and then when they claim their reward, we can also save os.time. Now, because whenever the player rejoins the game again is going to be a few more seconds into the future, we can subtract these os.time values, and then we'll have a number of seconds since the player last joined the game. So what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to see whether that number in seconds, we can see whether it is greater than or less than 86,400, which is 24 hours into seconds, and if it is more, then we will give them their daily reward. So os.time is the amount of time in seconds since the epoch. So what we can do is we're going to, we want to see if they have data saved, okay? So if the player has joined a game before and claimed a reward, then we will have saved some data with the data store. So we will have saved the os.time value. So what we're going to do is we're going to say local data, and because we don't know whether they have data saved or not, we're not going to set data to anything just yet. So we're going to drop a line, but we're still going to have a variable defined. So we can say in a p-call, so p-call function and drop a line. So this p-call is going to try and get the player's data. Now, because the player might not have any data, or there might be an error with data stores, or something that just makes the get async line fail for some reason, we don't want it to break the entire script, so that the handling of the daily reward system is not impacted for other players, because data stores might go down, you never know, and they might cause an error in your code, because, you know, if data stores aren't working, then that's not very good. So with pcall, it just contains the error, but it keeps the script working, okay? It doesn't break the entire script. So we can say data equals data store colon get async, and then what get async does is it looks for data within a key. Now, the way data stores work is that each player has their own unique key, and for a game's data store, you will assign a value to that key so that you can look that key up and see if there's a value attached to it. And if it is, then you can get that value using get async. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to see if there is an os.time value saved for our current player. Now, as I said, we don't know the name of the player who has joined the game right now, so we just use player, okay, as our argument, and then when a player does join the game, whatever we're doing to player in this event will be done to the player that joins the game. So inside of the get async, we need to give them a key. Now, the key I'm going to use is I'm going to take their user ID, and then we're going to attach daily reward to it. So it's unique to each player, but we still know what the key is. Now, the issue of using a player's name for the key is that maybe if they change their name, their data is going to be reset. You've got lots of issues that arouse if you use the player's name. So we use the player's user ID. So we say player.userid, and then we say ... and then we're going to attach a daily reward to it, okay? So just like this, we're saying hyphen daily reward. So a player's key might look something like this, okay? Like that, okay? So we'll look in the data store for any data or any value associated with that key. And if there is data found, then we're storing it in this variable called data, okay? So now that we have got the data, we can just print getting data, and then outside of this p-call, because we're no longer dealing with finding the data, what we can now say is we can actually check this data and see if there was data found or not, because there might not be data found. So if there is no data, then they're going to be a new player to the game. So what we're going to do is we're going to check to see if the data is equal to nil. Okay, so if it's equal to nil, then it's a new player. So what we're going to do is, instead of saying if data is equal to nil, we'll say if data is not equal to nil, and then we'll add an else statement, and we'll deal with the new players there. So we can say if data is not equal to nil, so if there is some data, then we know that it is a returning player to the game. Else we know that it is a new player. And so if it is a new player, then what we're going to do is we're just going to print new player, and then we'll deal with that later on when we get to the actual saving part. So if they are a returning player to the game, then we want to get the time since last play. Now, I said earlier that to do this, we're going to subtract the two os.time values. So what we'll do is we'll create a variable here called local time since last play. And this is going to be equal to time now, which is our variable that we defined up here on line 18, which is the current number of seconds since the epoch on 1st of January 1970. And then we're going to take that number of seconds. Now, because the time now is going to be in the future, okay, it's going to be ahead of the last claim time, then in order to keep it a positive number, then we're going to do time now, take away or minus data. Okay, so that should give us a number in seconds since the last reward was claimed. Okay, so we're going to save the data later on, as I said, but we're going to save the os.time value, and then we can take these two away and get the time since last play. And so if you want to print that out, then we can just say print last, what we could say, I think instead of saying last play, we should do last claim, because what I'm going to do later on is we're going to save it, not when the player leaves the game, but when they actually claim. So I'm going to say time since last claim equals time now minus data. So number in seconds since the last reward was claimed, because they might claim the reward when they join, but then they might be in the game for 2 hours. So that's giving an inaccurate result. So what we can do again is you can print time since last claim, and then we can concatenate this string to the time since last claim. All we need to do now is use an if statement to check to see whether the time since last claim in seconds is greater than a day, okay, or however long you want it to be. So because we've got a variable here, it's not constant, so you might want to change it to 2 days, 48 hours between daily rewards, or even 3 days, or you might want to just keep it, short, and you get a reward every 2 hours or 12 hours. It's up to you. So you can set the number of hours in between rewards in your hour wait variable. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if time since last claim divided by 3,600. Okay, it's taking the number of seconds, it's dividing it by 60, and it's dividing it by 60 again, because 60 times 60 is 3,600. Obviously this is in seconds, and we want to convert it to hours. So dividing by 3,600 will firstly divide by 60 to put it into minutes, and then divide by 60 again to put it into hours, because 60 seconds are in 1 minute, and 60 minutes are in 1 hour. So we're dividing by 3,600, and that should give us a number of hours since they last claimed their reward, okay? We want to see if that number is greater than or equal to our wait, okay? So our wait is currently set to 24, so if it's greater than or equal to 24 hours, then we know that they are eligible for a reward, okay? So what we want to do now is we want to actually choose a reward to give to the player. So this is where the possible rewards table comes in, because we defined it earlier on line 5. And what we're going to do is we're going to add an element of luck, okay? Because, you don't want to come back to the game. You want a player to come back to your game in 24 hours, and they know what they're going to get. Because if they just keep getting the same thing, then it gets boring. They don't want to come back again. So there might be a chance that if they come back, they might get a massive jackpot, okay, which is super rare, or they might just get like 5 coins or something really really basic, but it makes it a nice little fun thing to add to the daily reward system. So up here in the possible rewards table, I'm just going to add a bunch of different rewards that you can get, okay? So we can do 10, 15, 10, 10, 10, 5, 5, 5, 5. So these are all the common ones which you can get. So you can get 10 coins, 15 coins, 10 coins. These are all in coins, okay? So it's the number of coins that you're going to get, alright? So I'm just going to add a bunch of these in here. So 5 is going to be really common, 10 less so, 15 is sort of common, and then we'll do 500 coins. So if you're really lucky, you're going to get 500 coins added into your balance. So now that we've done this, we've got a table of different values. Okay, a table just holds multiple bits of data. Okay, and what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to pick a random number. Because each object in this table has its own index. Okay, so the first object in the table will have an index of 1. This will be number 2, number 3, number 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to the end. Okay, so each object has its own index attached to it. So we can choose a random number between 1 and however many numbers there are here. So I don't know how many there are, but you choose a random number, and let's say the random number was 7, then we'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we're going to pick the 7th entry into this table, and boom, you've won yourself 5 coins. So to pick a random number from this table, what we can do is we can firstly create a variable for the reward that they're going to receive. So we can say local reward equals, and then we're going to get the possible rewards table. And then we're going to select an entry from that table. So we can, in square brackets, we can specify the index number. Okay, so I said, remember, each object has its own index. Okay, so from 1 to however many entries there are in the table. But to pick a random one, we can use math.random, which will pick a random number for us. So we can say math.random, and then in parenthesis or brackets here, we can say 1. So the random number will be between 1 and then however many entries are in that table. Now, a really quick way to find out how many entries or objects are in that table, or numbers are in that table, you can just put a hashtag and write the name of the table. So in this case, possible rewards. Now let's actually count how many entries there are. Okay, so 25 entries in this table. So it will be between 1 and 25, alright? So it's going to take the 25th entry. So let's say that 25 was the random number. It will take 25th entry in this table, which is 500, and it will set reward to 500. So the reward is going to be the number of coins that you're going to get. So what we want to do now is we want to show on the player's screen the GUI. Okay, and to do this, we're going to use a remote event. Okay, just to make sure that the game is compatible with filtering enabled as well, so that it works perfectly, and we can display to the user how many coins they got. So we'll display this daily reward GUI, and then when they click the claim button, we will use the reward notice, and we'll do a nice little animation on it, and it will come up on the screen and say, you won 10 coins, alright, or 15 coins, however many coins you got. Just so that as I said again, when they click that claim button, they don't know what they're going to get. It's sort of like a random draw sort of thing. So when they click claim, they're going to get that nice pop-up, and it will look really nice and polished. So let's go and just set the GUI to enabled equals false. We're just going to uncheck it. And what we're going to do is we're going to insert our remote event here. So the remote event, it allows the server script here, which is obviously running on the Roblox's server machine. It will let us execute some code on the player, also known as the client. So a server script can't access a player's GUI. So we have to use a remote event, and we then fire that event in replicated storage, which the server and client can both see, and then actually in the player's GUI, as we can't access it, we can add some code which will be replicated to that player's GUI, so that we can pick up that request from the remote event whenever we fire it from the server, and we can show the GUI, and we'll tell the local script which we're going to make to actually show that GUI, so that we can say that it's time for a reward, and they can then click claim, and we'll do the same thing, just going the other way. We'll fire a remote event from the client to the server, and then when they've clicked the claim button, we will give them their reward. So if you're not too sure on what remote events or filtering enabled are, don't worry, I'm going to be doing a few more tutorials on it soon. I've already got a couple on my channel as well, so make sure you've subscribed so that you don't miss out on those. So we're going to click on replicated storage, and I'm going to add in the remote event, and then I'm going to just name this event show daily reward. Okay, so show daily reward. And obviously this is going to be fired by the server. I'm going to pick it up on the in the GUI on the client, so that we can make that GUI enabled, so we can show it and show that they have got a reward. So we can go back into the server script here. Now make sure that you've saved your work. Control S, and then make sure you've got it saved. I'm going to save it as daily login. And so what we'll do is we'll go under this line 36, underneath local reward, and we'll say game.replicated storage.show daily reward fire client. Okay, because we're firing this remote event to be picked up on the client. Okay, so the client that we want to fire this to is the player who is going to claim their reward. So we can just say player. But we also want to pass some information across to this player. We want to pass the hour wait, and we also want to pass the reward. Okay, so the hour wait will tell the player how long it is until their next reward, and the reward argument that we're passing through will just pass through to the client the amount of cash that they're going to receive. And then we can pick up this information, and then we can show it in that nice animation which will pop up saying you got 50 coins or you got 5 coins. So we're passing it through now, and then we'll pick it up on the client, and then in the GUI we'll just show it in that GUI and make it look nice and fancy. So now that we've fired this remote event, we don't need to do any more server coding for now. We can start actually going into our GUI and coding that to pick this remote event request up. So by now you should have the GUI in the starter GUI. As I said, I'm going to put it in the description down below. So have a look in the description and then go take the model, add it to your inventory. Then if you go to My Models, you should find it. So go ahead and click it, and then it should be added into your game. Make sure that you've dragged it into starter GUI. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a local script to this GUI, and then inside of here we're going to pick up that remote event trigger which we fired from the server. So we can say game.replicated storage dot show daily reward, and then we can say on client event. So it's going to like I said, with the player added event, it's going to run any code inside of here when that remote event has been triggered by the server. So we can say on client event connect, and then the information we passed to this from the server to the client was the hours, the hour wait, so the hours to next reward, and also the reward amount. Now I know that we passed through. Let's just add drop a line here. Oh, we forgot to do function. Whoops. Connect function. Hours to next reward amount, and then let's drop a line. There we go. So we didn't name these two arguments the same in each script. This one was called hours to next reward, but we actually we sent it as hour wait, and we sent reward and picked it up as reward amount. It really doesn't matter what you name them, as long as they're in the right order, so that they get passed into the same arguments and parameters, if you know what I mean. So obviously, because hour wait is the second one, it's the second argument. We don't count player because you don't need to pick that one up. We only need to tell the server where to send it to, so we don't need to pick that one up on the client because we already know who the player is, because it's running locally on that player's machine. So we've got the hours to next reward and the reward amount. So the first thing we want to do is we want to show the daily reward GUI. So we can say script.parent.enabled equals true. We then want to set the comeback text, which is, let me just show you. It's this one here. So we want to update it. So it says come back in the amount of hours for your next reward. So we can go ahead and go back into the local script and say script.parent.frame.comeback.text equals come back in, and then we can concatenate the hours to next reward, and then we can say hours for your next reward. Just like that. So that's going to update that text. And then we want to have a mouse button one click event for when we click the claim button. Okay, so when we click that claim button, we're then going to fire another remote event, as I said earlier on. And then when that event is fired, then we will go back to the server, and then we will add on the reward to their coins balance. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say script.parent.frame.claim.mouse button one click :connect, and then function in parentheses with another pair of parentheses after that, and then we'll drop a line, add an end. We don't need to have any arguments here for this event, as we did with the on-server event, on-client event ones that we just did, the on-client event one. So all we need to do inside of this mouse button one click event, so whenever the claim button has been clicked, we want to fire another remote event. So we're going to go to our replicated storage here, and we're going to just duplicate this remote event, and I'm going to call this one claim reward. So we can say we're going to say local reward equals, in fact we don't need to say local reward, we could just say, because it's not a remote function, game.replicatedStorage.claim reward fire server. Okay, so this is going to send a request off to our remote event, and whenever it's triggered, we're going to pick that up in the server script, and then we'll go ahead and give them their reward. Okay, because with filtering enabled, you can't update a player's coins or a currency from the client, because it's only going to update for them. It's going to be blocked by the server, because filtering enabled blocks all requests to edit something on the server from clients. Okay, as I said, if you want to learn more about filtering enabled, I've done quite a few videos on my channel about it. So now that we've fired this claim reward event, all we need to do is we just need to flash up our nice little reward notice. So to do that, we can say script.parent.reward notice, and then we can say .text equals, and then in speech marks we're going to say you got, and then we're going to do a space to concatenate it with the reward amount argument that we passed in, like that, and then we'll just say coins after that. Okay, if you want to make yours look a bit more fancy, then you can do so by adding emojis. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to add emojis to each side of the string, because Roblox now supports emojis in its UI, so you can utilize them. And then we're just going to tween that reward notice. It just basically means animate the GUI element, so that it basically just grows on our screen and it flashes up. So to do this, we can say script.parent.reward notice, and we can say tween size and position. Okay, and so we just need to give the udim2 values for the position and for the size. So for the position, so for the size, because size goes first, we can say udim2.new, and then we can say 0.60, 0.150. Okay, this is the size of what the reward notice will be when it's finished animating. Okay, that's the desired size. We're then going to do a comma, and then we're going to do the position value. So we can say udim2.new, and we can say 0.50, 0.50. Okay, because on the reward notice we've set the anchor point to 0.5, so that whenever you set the position to 0.5, it will be truly in the middle. Okay, so now that we have tweened it, we're going to want to make the frame here. So this frame, which says daily reward, we want to hide that so we can actually see the nice smooth animation. So we can say script.parent.frame.visible equals false. Notice how the reward notice isn't in the frame, so that when we make the frame invisible, the reward notice doesn't go with it. Then we're going to wait 1.5 seconds. And then we're just going to, obviously when the tween is finished, then we can do the same thing again. So I'm just going to copy this line. Okay, and I'm going to set the size to just 0 all around. And we're going to keep the position the same because we want it to retain its constant position. We just want it to get smaller. So now that we've done that, we can do script.parent.enabled equals false and script.parent.frame.visible equals true. We want to make the frame visible for next time. Obviously we're making the entire GUI go off screen, but next time it appears we want the frame to be visible but not a reward notice because it's going back to its size of 0, 0. So we can do another wait here if you want. Another wait 1.5 to see it smoothly go off screen. If you want to edit your speed values or the way that the easing style or direction of the tween, you can do so by adding more. There are more parameters or arguments available. Check the object browser if you're interested in those. But that is all of the client-side coding finished. Okay, we now just need to work on claim reward. That will be very quick, and also saving the time when that player clicks it. So that's going to be very, very quick. And all we need to do, we need to go back to the server script, and then over here by where we've done fire client for our show daily reward, we're just going to set up a connection here. Now we're doing this because we want to disconnect the event that we're about to make after it has been fired for the first time. Now you'll see how this makes sense once we've done the event, but it will make perfect sense very shortly. So we're just doing local connection, and then we're setting that connection variable to our event. Okay, make sure to save your work, and we're going to just say game.replicated .claim reward .onServer event :connect function player. Okay, so the argument here is the player that triggered the claim reward event. Okay, and that will be sent from the local script from the client, and obviously because we don't know which player will have triggered it. Okay, in this case, because we've put the event inside of our player added event inside of this if statement, then it's going to be fired only when that player's reward is eligible. So in the unlikely event that two players get their reward at the exact same time, and just to be sure that this does not happen, we can just check that if player is equal to in fact we should change this player parameter just to say player, so we could just say triggering player. Okay, so this is just the player that triggered the remote event to fire, but we're just giving it a different name to the player argument over here. So if triggering player is equal to the player, so it's the same player, then we know that we've got the right person. So what we can do is we can say print reward claimed, so we know that they've now claimed their reward, and we can say player.leaderstats.coins.value equals player.leaderstats .coins.value plus reward. We're adding our reward, the reward, where is it? Where's the reward? Here we go, the possible rewards. So that number that we got from the table, we're adding it on to the number of coins that they have. And once we've done that, all we need to do is we need to save the time at which they click that button. So to do that, we can say data store set async, and we can say player.userid, which is their key, and concatenate it with the daily reward. Okay, and then we're just going to save the value to that key, and that value is going to be os.time. Okay, so the number of seconds since January the 1st, 1970, and then because we've saved that, when they next join the game, we can check it against time now to see time since the last claim. Okay, and now that we've done that, what we can do is we can say connection, and then we can say :disconnect. So it's going to prevent this player from triggering it more than once, okay? Because if we didn't have this disconnect and this connection, they'd be able to constantly trigger this claim reward event, or an exploiter would fire this event like tons of times every second, so they would keep getting their reward. So we disconnect it once they've got their reward the first time, and obviously the next time they join, we set up the connection ready for their next reward. Okay, so that should have done the actual saving for players that have played the game before. We also now need to focus on players that haven't joined the game before. Okay, we can add an else here if you want. Else if the hour wait hasn't been exceeded. So if they have come back within 24 hours, okay, they're not eligible for a reward. We can print player is eligible right now. Okay, but that should be everything for returning players. Now, all we need to do for players that are new to the game, we just need to do a quick little player removing event, and then we'll be all done. So we can say game.players.player removing, okay, :connect function player, and this will be the player that leaves the game. Obviously, we don't know their name again. Now, all we want to do is we want to have a p-call function here, because we want to get the data again. So we can say local data, and then we can, what we can do here is, in fact, what we'll do, we'll just get rid of this p-call, we'll do local data outside of it, and then we'll do p-call function, there we go, and then inside of this p-call, we can do data equals data store :get async, and we'll use the player's user ID as the key again. So daily reward, and then we can just print getting the data. Then outside of this p-call, we can say if data is equal to nil, then we know that they're a new player. And what we can do is we can say local time val equals os.time. Okay, so when they first join the game, we're going to save the current time, and then what we can do is we can say data store :set async player.userid, and then we can set their key as well, daily reward, just like that. And then we can print saved because you are a new player. Okay, and we'll just do the same. We'll put this in a p-call as well, so that in case of errors, it doesn't break the entire script. And let's just make sure that's properly indented. So if a player joins the game for the first time, they're not going to get a daily reward straight away. Okay, now, if you wanted this to be the case, okay, then in this else here, what you can do is you can take this code here, and you can copy it, and you can paste it into this else here, okay? In fact, I think I put it into the wrong else. There we go. It needs to be in this one over here, where it says new player. So if they're a new player, then we want to give them a reward, okay? And then we can set their daily reward if they're a new player. Now, if that's the case, then you don't really need this this part over down here, which is actually setting a player's time if they haven't, you know, because if we've got if we're giving them a daily reward straight away when they join, then you don't need this code over here, because you don't need to check if it's nil, because the player will have some data. So you can comment that out if you want, and you can actually comment the entire thing out here. And that's not needed if you want to give them a reward when they join for the first time. So I'm just going to go and just make sure this is properly indented, and then we can go ahead and test it out. So I'm going to go ahead and test my game. Now, if you want this to work in Studio, you need to publish your game, and then click on the 3 dots next to the title of your game, click Configure Game, and then there should be a button which says Enable Access to Studio API Services. If you go ahead and click that, that should allow you to use data stores in Studio. But if you're still a bit confused, don't worry, just go ahead, publish your game, and go actually try it out in Roblox. Go click the play button. But I've got mine configured correctly. Now, make sure that the daily reward GUI is set to disabled. Okay, so enabled is set to false. Okay, else every player is going to get a daily reward as soon as they join. Okay, or when they reset, etc., because it's going to be on screen. So make sure it's disabled and turned off. Now let's go ahead and play it. I'm going to click the play button, and you can see it says getting data, and it saw that I'm a new player. So it says come back in 24 hours for your next reward. So I'm going to click on claim, and there we go. I got 5 coins, and it got added to my balance. Now if I go ahead and leave and I come back, then I am uneligible because 24 hours have not passed. You can see 10 seconds passed since my last visit. And if we go ahead and play the game again, you can see that it is updated to 23 seconds. So it's not updating it's not resetting the time back to 0 when you leave. It's just adding on to it, okay? Because it's only resetting it when you click claim again. Now, just for the purposes of the tutorial, I'm going to go back to the script here, and I'm going to change our weight to 0.111, sorry, 0.00001, okay? So you don't have to wait to get your next reward. Okay, this is just to speed things up because we're not going to wait an entire day. And you can see it's messed up the come back in hours. That's because I've added a fractional amount of hours. But I can claim my reward, and the reward claim time will have reset from 54. It should go down to, okay, there we go, 6 seconds. And I can get some more coins. And it is a random chance each time. Doesn't matter because it's taking a random number from that table, so it doesn't matter what you get, because you're always going to get something different. So there we go, we've got a nice little daily reward system here. Let's go ahead and change this back to 24. So there we go. If you want to take the source code, then become a channel member, click the join button next to the subscribe button. You get all the source code from my future videos, and also if you want to take the GUI, I'll leave that for free in the description for you. Thanks for watching. Make sure to leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell icon so you never miss out on a new upload. And I'll see you in the next video.